Hello, fictional. Welcome to the What If Essay. Today we are gonna see, what if Issei is the son of both Ophis and Great Red. Part 2. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Issei and everyone else had just been released to lunch. He had decided to have lunch on the roof since he didn't know anyone other than Sona and Rias. He couldn't have lunch with either as one doesn't know he is there and it ruined the surprise and the other one might kill him as soon as she sees him. As such the roof was the best option. But he did not expect to find on the roof what a small white-haired girl that smelled like a cat, but he could sense that she was a devil. They had noticed as well, but what was weird was that looked to be very shaken. Issei then realizes that he was still releasing his aura. He reins it in, then rubs the back of his head embarrassed core not realizing it sooner. The white-haired looks confused so Issei addresses her. Sorry about that. Issei. I didn't mean to scare you. She just stares at like she trying to see if he is lying. She then relaxes seeing as he was telling the truth. She speaks in a quiet voice. My name is Kaneko. What are you? You smell weird. Issei is taken aback by this and smiles awkwardly. Well, I am a dragon. As soon as he says this Kaneko starts shaking in fear again. Seeing her get scared he quickly says. I'm not going to hurt you. Oh, you know the other devils Sona and Rias. Hearing her king's name she nods still shaking, scared. Issei continues. I am actually a friend of theirs. I hadn't seen them for a while and Rias doesn't know him here and I plan on surprising her, but Sona knows so you can ask her about me. He said this very quickly to try and comfort the girl, but he can see that she is still suspicious. He sighed. If you'd like I can leave and we can just pretend this didn't happen. Oh, but don't tell Rias about me or it will ruin the surprise. As he was about to leave Kaneko stopped him. It's okay, you can stay. She said this while blushing a bit. Issei nods and sits down to eat lunch. They didn't say another word after that and just ate lunch in silence. Once the bell rang they said their goodbyes and went back to class. All throughout the classes Issei was bored. It's not that he disliked the classes, but he already knew everything they were teaching. With it being over he was happy since he could finally go to surprise Rias. Thinking about this he starts heading towards the old school building where he knows she at for her club activities. She had created the Occult Research Club as a cover for her peerage's devil activities of forming contracts with humans, much like Sona with the student council. It didn't take long for him to reach the ORC Occult Research Club building. After getting close enough he found that there were enchantments to keep normal humans from getting close. Of course this did nothing to Issei as he just kept on his path. Once he was within 100 feet of the building the sense that Sona and her queen were present in the building. Sona must want to see how I am going to surprise Rias. He thought as he released his aura once again like he did with Sona and her peerage. After doing so he could sense that they had felt him and went on guard. Smiling he walks to the opening walking at a slow pace through the building until he reached the door with all but one of the signatures in the building. That last one must be the sealed piece of Rias that he had heard about from the information his parents gave him. He knocks on the door a couple times, then waits there until he hears a low voice. You may enter. He opens the door and walks in. When he enters he sees that Sona and her queen were indeed there as well as Rias and her peerage. This included his friend Rias of course, a boy that looked ready to attack at any second, a black-haired girl that seems to be blushing for some reason she is blushing because of the aura that Issei is releasing, and the last one is the white-haired girl that he met on the roof during lunch. As soon as he entered Rias didn't waste any time with pleasantries. What can we do for you? She asked still looking rather nervous. Issei just looked at her before turning to Sona. It seems you are not the only one that forgot me. Sona just glares at him, causing an involuntary shiver to run down his back. He turns back to see that Rias has a very confused face, so he decides to finally answer her. I came to keep a promise I made to a friend a long time ago. That PMI's was to save her from her arranged marriage. After say this he just watches as Rias starts to realize who he was. Hey, are you really? She starts to tear up beggar she bolt from across the room straight into his chest, knocking him over. This was nostalgic to him as she would do this quite a lot when they were younger. He starts to laugh while patting her back to comfort her. I promised that I would come back to save you once I was strong enough. Why, did you think I was lying and just ran away? She stayed silent buried in his chest until she finally spoke. No, I knew you would come back to save me. I had complete faith in you. Rias' peerage were so confused they didn't understand what was going on. Her queen was the first one to speak. President, I take that you know this boy. This broke Rias from her daze as she jumps back up blushing, finally realizing that she was pretty much straddling Issei. Yes, this is Issei. He saved both me and Sona from kidnappers when we were younger. We then became really good friends after that. Kiba was wondering about something that was though. But what does he mean by save his friend, which I'm assuming is you, from an arranged marriage? Rias froze hearing this, realizing the news got out. Don't you know? Rias has an arranged marriage with another devil. He is a part of another pure-blooded family. So she is being forced to marry him, although it doesn't matter anymore since I'm going to be stopping it. No, he didn't know. The only ones that did were you, Akeno, and Sona," said Rias, answering the question for Kiba. Both Kiba and Kaneko look offended that they were the only ones that didn't know about this. Though they drop it once they think about it. It's not like they could do anything about it, since this was about a marriage of high-class devils, and they were only low-class ones, and Rias probably just didn't was to worry them. After introducing each of her peerage members to Issei stayed there for a couple hours until it was getting late, so he exit himself. Rias though didn't let him go until he promised to join the orc. Of course he said he would only join with a couple conditions. They were that as long as he does not have to join her peerage and that he would not be required to attend every meeting they have as he might have some other things to do. Rias looked upset at the first condition but relented in the end, not wanting to push her friend away after finally reuniting with him. Issei was on his way home when he was crossing a bridge that a black-haired girl called out to him. Your name is Issei, right?" Issei turns to her before nodding. "Would you please be my boyfriend?" she pretty much yells before bowing her head. Did she really just ask me that? This is the first time I have ever met her. Issei thought, staring at the girl with a lot of confusion. That was when an odd smell reached his nose. It smelled like some kind of bird, and if he remembers right, his parents taught that this smell was from fallen angels. Not knowing why one of those beings would approach him, he stayed calm and fished for more information. "I believe this is the first time I have ever met you, is it not?" Issei asked very calmly, giving the girl a small smile. She flinched back before compassing herself and responding. "This is the first time we have ever met, but I have seen you around town and it was love at first sight." Issei seen that she was hiding a lot of disgust behind her facade. Not wanting to start a fight with her without knowing who she was or what she is capable of, decides to partially agree to her. "Well, I don't think we should jump straight to dating. We would need to get to know each other better before that." He pat himself on the back for his top-tier acting. She couldn't hide the sadistic grin that flashed across her face after hearing his answer. "Then we could go on a date. How about this Friday?" she asked. "That sounds good to me. We can meet up here after school. Is that fine with you?" After figuring out the time and place they would meet up for the date, she left the bridge. Issei stayed there for a bit thinking about this whole encounter. What could the fallen angels want with him? Did they find out who his parents were? No, that's not possible. Shaking his head, he decided that the only way for him to find out was for him to go on that date. He left shortly after, deciding to make a plan for this later. It didn't take long for Issei to reach his house. He opened the door before yelling, "I'm home." Hearing his announcement, Ophis peeked around the corner from the kitchen before saying, "Welcome home, honey." She was wearing an apron, looking to be cooking dinner. "Where's Dad?" he asked as he started walking to his room upstairs. "He should be in the garage working on that motorcycle of his," she said, sighing, as ever since his dad learned of them he has been obsessed with them. With a small laugh, he goes to his room and drops off his stuff while changing his clothes. Walking back downstairs and past his mother, she tells him dinner will be ready in about an hour and to tell his father. Thanking her, he heads to the garage to find his dad working on his motorcycle. "Mom said dinner will be ready in about an hour," he said as he walks over to help his dad. Noticing that Issei was worrying about something, Red sighs before asking, "What's bothering you?" Flinching a little, Issei decided it might be a good idea to get his dad's opinion. He tells his dad what happened with the fallen angel. After hearing the story, Red thought about it for a moment before speaking. She might be under orders to find sacred gears, and since some have the aura of a dragon, she might have thought you had one. For what she plans to do after confirming you have one, I don't know. She might try to recruit you, or she might have orders to eliminate future threats. Issei lets out a big sigh. He responded, "So, I would still need to go on the date to find out what she really wants. This sucks." Letting out a small laugh, Red just gets back to working on his bike until dinner. After a moment, Issei gets to helping his dad. This lasted until dinner, where they had a good time talking about how he pranked both of his friends and about the new people he met. After dinner, Issei went to bed. The next morning came faster than Issei would have liked. He woke up, did his morning routine of brushing his teeth, taking a shower, and getting dressed before heading down to eat breakfast. As he was getting ready to leave the house to start heading to school, he heard the bell ring. "Give me a minute, I'll be there in a second." Walking to the door, he opens it to see 4 girls. They were Rias, Sona, Akeno, and Tsubaki. "What are you doing here? How did you find out where I lived?" He then remembers Sona is the student council president, so she must have gotten it and came here with Rias. Rias was the one to respond. "We came to walk to school together. Did you not want to go with us?" she asks with fake sadness, causing Issei to sigh. Before Issei could respond he heard a voice ask behind him. Issei was at the door. Is it your girlfriend? Shortly after his dad was seen walking to the door with a smile. Issei could only fathom him as he saw all four of the girls fall to the floor having a hard time breathing. Dad, rein in your aura. You're giving them a hard time. He said pointing at the unconscious girls at the doorstep. Red let out a nervous laugh before doing as asked. Even after that the girls were still too weak to get up, so he decides to bring them in to rest. It took about 15 minutes for them to regain consciousness. They stayed quiet looking at Red nervously not knowing what to do and not wanting to upset him. Issei was the one to end the silence saying. Dad, these two are Rias and Sona and the other two are their queens Akeno and Tsubaki. He then looks at the girls and introduces his dad. This is my dad, his name is Red. I'm sorry about earlier. We planned on doing this at a later date but it seems that plan was ruined. He said this sending a glare at his dad causing said man to look away in embarrassment. Red, as in Great Red the dragon god Rias asked causing all of the girls to get even more scared. Yes. Was all Issei could say in response. Red then said. You kids should start heading to school before you're late. With that said everyone started heading for the door till it was opened by Issei's mom. Oh, Issei, why haven't you left yet? Are these some friends of yours? The girls turned to Issei with a face that said, are you serious? Issei could only fathom him before introducing his mom. Well, this is my mom Ophis. With that the girls hit the floor unconscious once again. But the revelations of who Issei's parents are caused the devils to be so late for school that they decided to just talk about what they find out and go to school later. They were all sitting in the living room of Issei's house. Rias, Sona, Akeno and Tsubaki were sitting on the couch while Issei and Red were sitting on another. Ophis was in the kitchen making tea for everyone. Sighing Issei started to speak. Sorry for not telling you about who my parents were, but you can guess why we decided to keep it secret. Rias and Sona thought about it for a second before nodding. Yes, if people found out that the dragon gods had gotten together and had a child together would cause an uproar. Sona said before shaking her head trying to wrap her head around the situation. The Ophis walks in at this moment to serve the tea to everyone. Red decided to speak up next. Just so you know, we expect you to keep this a secret until Issei decides that he is ready to reveal it to the world. Can you promise us you'll do that? The only reason we don't just wipe your memories of this is because you are close friends of Issei. Saying his piece he thanked Ophis taking a sip of his tea. After serving everyone tea, Ophis sat down between Issei and Red before saying. With that being the case, if we did wipe your memories Issei would get upset with us and I would not want that to happen. She frowned when she imagined Issei hating her and not wanting to see her. The girls were stunned to see that the Ouroboros dragon god that was said to have no emotions looked so sad. Oh, of course we will keep this to ourselves until you say it's okay. Rias said bowing her head quickly followed by the others, three nodding their head in agreement. Clapping her hands Ophis said, okay, now you all should go to school now. Issei and his friends got up and left the house and started heading to school. After reaching the school they all separated with Sona and Tsubaki going to the student council room, Rias and Akeno went to the orc club room, and Issei headed to class. He reached the classroom knocking on the door before being told to enter. Sorry for being late, the student council needed me or something. The lie the group made up as an excuse. The teacher nodded before saying, if that's so, don't worry about it. Go take your seat. The rest of the day was uneventful to say the least. At the end of the day Issei was on his way home thinking about what he was going to do this Friday with his date. He didn't tell Rias or Sona because if they find out it could cause a big problem with a fallen being in devil territory. With Issei being so deep in thought he wasn't paying much attention to his surroundings until he bumped into something and hearing a small leap. Breaking from his thoughts he looks down to see a girl in a nun outfit face down with her ass in the air, her underwear completely exposed. Realizing what had happened he apologized. I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. You're not hurt are you? He was reaching down to help the girl up. Yes, I'm not hurt. It's not like you did it on purpose. The girl said flashing the purest smile Issei had ever seen while grabbing his hand getting up. At that moment a strong wind blew by taking her veil with it. Reacting quickly he grabs it out of the air before offering it back to her. Here you go. Taking a good look at her, she had bright blonde hair, emerald green eyes, and skin as white as snow. She wore what looked to be nun clothes, and she looked to be a foreigner. For some reason he felt compelled to protect her. Snapping out of his daze he introduces himself. Oh yeah, my name is Issei Hyoudou. Are you from around here? I don't think I've ever seen you before. He said noticing the suitcase on the ground behind her with all its contents sprawled out on the ground. He walks over to it before kneeling down and start putting the stuff back inside the bag. Seeing what Issei was doing the girl quickly relpies to him before jumping down and starts picking up her stuff as well. My name is Asia Argento, I'm from Italy. After everything was back in her bag she bows to Issei saying, "Thank you for your help." She looks around for a second before shyly asking, would you mind if I ask you for directions? I seem to be lost, someone was supposed to come pick me up but they never came." Laughing a little Issei nods his head. Seeing this she perks up with a bright smile. "Thank you so much. I'm looking for the church of this town." Even though Issei hadn't been in this place for that long he had explored the place to get to know his surroundings. While exploring he only found one church which wasn't at the edge of town. "Well, the only church that I know of is the abandoned one at the edge of town," he said pointing in the direction of the church. "It's a good distance from here so it might be a better idea if I walk you there. Would that be okay?" Throwing her hands up shaking said. "I can't trouble you more than I have already. You have done more than enough for me." Shaking his head Issei grabs Asia's bag before walking towards the church while saying, "It's no trouble at all. I had nothing else to do anyway and I can't just leave a lost girl by herself now can I?" Not knowing what else to say she just decides to follow him so she runs to catch up to him. "Thank you very much. I don't know how I can repay you," she said now walking next to Issei. "Don't worry about it. It was my decision anyway," Issei said giving her a warm smile. Being curious why this girl was going to a church that was left to rot for so many years by herself he asked. "If you don't mind me asking, why are you going to that church anyway? It's been left abandoned for years now." "Well, I don't really know. All I know is that the people that was supposed to pick me up is staying there. At first I was staying at a church in Italy until I was kicked out. With nowhere to go I was offered to stay here so that's where I was heading," she said with answered look while staring at the ground. Though hearing this we both turned to the right to see a young boy crying because of escaped knee. Seeing this Asia ran to the boy comforting him. "It's okay. You're a big boy and big boys don't cry over small wounds." She then puts her hands together like she was praying when a green light lit up around her hands before going to the boy's scraped knee. It took a couple seconds, but after the light touched the knee it started to close up and heal at unbelievable speeds. So, she must have a sacred gear. Issei though while Asia said bye to the now healed boy and walking back to him. Looking at Issei she had a worried face before saying, "Sorry, I just can't leave anybody that needs help alone. This power is why I was kicked out of the church I was at before, but I don't hate it. God gave me this power to heal and I plan on using it on whoever needs it." She had a determined look while saying that second part. Issei just smiled at her for a few minutes. "Don't worry about it. You have nothing to be sorry about. All you did was help an injured child," he said starting to walk towards the church again. They stayed in a comfortable silence till the church came into view. "Well that's the church," Issei said before stopping dead having sensing the fallen angels in the building. Staying calm he turns to Asia. "Well since we are so close I'm sure you can get there from here and I need to get home before it gets too late." Issei reaches out to hand Asia her bag. "Thank you very much. I don't know what I would have done without you." She says this while grabbing her bag and bowing before walking off towards the church. Issei turns around and starts heading back the way they came from towards his house. Why is someone like Asia staying with fallen angels? Thinking this he decides to investigate this as well as to why they had approached him. After showing Asia to the church Issei went home with a lot on his mind. After thinking about it he decided to just leave it be until after his date that fallen angel. It was then that he realized that he didn't even know the name of said person. Sighing he just decides to get it from her during the date. The rest of the week was uneventful as all he did was go to school, talk to his friends, and go home. He thought it might not be a good idea to let them know about his date to avoid causing them trouble. As his parents told him about the tension between the three biblical factions. It was now Friday and he was supposed to meet up for the date after school. With that in mind he went to school for another boring day until the intercom came on during his last period. "Will Issei Hyoudou please report to the student council office after class is over?" "I repeat will Issei Hyoudou please report to the student council office after class is over?" "Thank you." This announcement caused all the students in his class to look at him before they started whispering to each other. Of what he could hear it was mostly them wondering why he was called there and if he was in trouble. Sighing he went back to paying attention to class or at least pretending to. Class ended about 30 minutes later, so he packed his things before leaving class and heading to the student council. He reached the room shortly afterwards. Knocking on the door he announces himself. "It's me, Issei. Can I come in?" The response was almost instantaneous. "Yes, you may enter." Upon hearing this he opens the door and walks in. Looking around he sees only Rias, Sona and their queens, resulting in a raised eyebrow. "Issei, me and Rias have noticed that you've seemed to be distracted by something these past few days. Can you tell us what it is?" Sona said in her calm stern tone, but Issei could also hear a hint of worry in it that isn't normally there. Happy that they are so worried about him he smiles before replying. It's just something that my parents told me. Sorry, I didn't mean to worry you. I can't tell you about it yet, but I'll tell you soon. He lied. I can't tell them yet as it would only complicate things. Knowing who Issei's parents were and what they were capable of reassured the devils that Issei was safe. Sighing in relief, they decide to drop the subject for now. With that taken care of, I was wondering if you have decided if you are gonna join the student council or the orc. Rias asked. Both Sona and Rias had asked him to join one of them, as it was required for students to join a club at Kuo Academy. It was a hard decision to make as he would be choosing between joining one of them and denying the other. In the end, he had decided to join the orc instead of the student council, as the latter was just too restricting with less free time. Nodding, Issei says, yes, I have decided to join the orc. Hearing his answer, Rias gains a bright smile, while Sona looks down, frowning, clearly sad with his decision. As for why I chose this is because as a dragon I value freedom and the student council is just too restricting, though that doesn't mean I won't come hang out with you, Sona. He said, giving Sona a friendly smile, causing her to look away, hiding a small blush. Looking at the time, Issei excuses himself. I need to go now though as I have something to do. I'll see y'all on Monday. But that said, he waves to them before walking out the room and out the building, heading home to change clothes and drop off his school stuff. He already knew that his parents were not there as they told him that they were gonna be visiting Tannen and his wife today. After changing, he left the house heading for the bridge they agreed to meet up at. As Issei arrived at the bridge, he seen that his date was already there waiting for him. Walking up to her, he speaks. Sorry to keep you waiting, I hope you didn't wait long. He said this while giving a fake smile. Oh yeah, I never got your name. He said this while rubbing the back of his head awkwardly. The fallen just giggles before saying, I guess I was just so excited that you accepted that I forgot to tell you. My name is Yuma Mono. Thank you again for giving me a chance. As she was saying this, Issei could see the smallest bit of disgust in her eyes, but she quickly hid it. He had to give it to her, she was a pretty good actor. If he didn't have any knowledge of the supernatural, he would have easily fallen for this girl's act. I'm guessing that is a fake name she's using, as it would be stupid to give her real name. Issei would have kept thinking about it, but Yuma broke him from his thoughts. So what's the plan? What are we gonna be doing? She asked as she grabbed Issei's arm, hugging it between her breasts. Stunned, it took him a second to answer. Well, I planned on going to the amusement park, the movies, or the aquarium, then have dinner and end it with a walk around the park. I didn't know what you like, so which one should we go with? Issei said while thinking about how soft her chest was. Oh, so I get to choose. How about we go to the aquarium, and if we have enough time before dinner we see a movie? She said while putting a finger on her chin, looking at the sky, looking to be in thought. With the plans made, they started walking to the first location. When they reached the aquarium, Issei bought 2 tickets and they entered. They walked around looking at the fish and other sea creatures, taking pictures. Issei had to admit he found it entertaining watching her acting. As they were leaving, Issei decides to buy a bracelet and give to Yuma. Looking at the time, there was a couple of hours before dinner, so they decide to watch a movie. It was a comedy, it was a good movie, but Issei had a hard time paying attention to it, though as every time Yuma would laugh her chest would bounce, catching his attention. Even if he is dragon god, he is still a teenager with zero experience with women. After the movie, they had dinner at a small family diner. It was now getting late, so they decided to go for a walk in the park to end it off. Issei was now on guard as he followed Yuma deep into the park away from everyone else. As they reached a fountain, she let go of Issei's arm, running ahead of him before stopping and looking away from him. Seeing her stop, he does so as well a few feet behind her. I had a fun time on our date today, if only we met under different circumstances. She mutters the last part as Issei felt a barrier to keep regular humans away appear around them. Issei, can I ask for one more thing? She asked. Sure, what can I do for you? Was all Issei replied. Will you die for me? As she asked this, she started to transform into what Issei could only think was her true form. The school uniform disappeared and was replaced by leather straps. She grew taller as her chest and ass got bigger, and she gained a more mature-looking face that had a feral grin present on it. She grew 2 large black feathered wings as she flew up to the sky, Becker turning around. And here it is. Issei thought before sighing. As she turned around to look at Issei, she froze when she saw that he was as calm as ever. Misunderstanding the reason for this, she smirks. What's wrong? Did I scare you stiff? Ha 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 ha, she said before letting a loud laugh. She then sees Issei look up at her, but froze when she saw his eyes. They were a bright gold with elongated pupil. That's when she felt a huge pressure hit her like a truck and she hits the ground, struggling to breath. Walking up to her, Issei asks. I see, so that's what this was. Just a trap to kill me. Tell me, what makes you think you are so important that I would die for you? Not knowing what was going on or how this was happening, she just stares up at him with wide eyes. Seeing this, Issei decides to give her words right back to her. What's wrong? Did I scare you stiff? Saying this, a wide grin appears on his face. I'm guessing that Yuma isn't your real name. What's your real name? He asked as he eased up on the pressure to allow her to speak. Terrified, the fallen angel answers quickly. My name is Rainer. So Rainer, why is it that you trying to kill me? Issei asks, giving an innocent smile. We thought you had a sacred gear. We got orders to get rid of any sacred gear wielders we found here in Kuo. She said as fast as she could to try and not anger him. Issei pondered this for a minute before noticing something. Who is this we you speak of? Realizing the slip of the tongue, she starts sweating bullets. Not answering fast enough, Issei pressures her again before easing it again to make his point. There are 3 other fallen angels besides me, as well as about 24 stray exorcists. She says in a panic. Who ordered you to do this? I'm guessing that the others are at that abandoned church. He asked while cupping his chin, looking to be in deep thought. It was Lord Kokobiel that ordered us to do it. Yes, the others are at the church. She said, trying to gain some favor with Issei not wanting to be killed. He then remembers Asia was there as well. I ran into a nun that was lost a couple days ago. She said she was heading to that church. Do you know about her? If so, what is her role in all this? Issei asks, glaring at Rainer. Paling at his words, she stays quiet, causing Issei growl at her. Yelping, she answers, we were gonna take her sacred gear, but she had no idea. This caused Issei to grow angry, as he knew that if you take someone's sacred gear from them, they die soon afterwards. So you planned on sacrificing an innocent girl just to take her power to heal? Issei yelled in anger, causing Rainer to flinch back while begging for her life. Please, don't kill me. I was just following orders. Please, please, please. Getting all the information he needs from this fallen, he ends the conversation. Even though you have no problem killing someone as innocent as her, you still have the gall to beg for your life. When you plan on killing someone, you should be prepared to put your life on the line. He said this very calmly while gathering magic in his hand. She tried to flee, but she was too slow. Now die. He said, releasing the fire magic on her. The sky was a bright crimson for a few seconds before going dark. There wasn't a single trace of her left, not even bones. All was turned to ash. After calming himself, thinks it might be good to inform Sona and Rias of what he was about to do. Using a magic circle, he calls Rias and Sona. Issei, what can we do for you? Came Sona's voice from the magic circle close to his ear. Just thought I'd tell you that I'm going to be attacking some fallen angels and stray exorcists that have taken up residence in the abandoned church. Saying this, he cuts off the circle, not giving the 2 girls a chance to speak. With that done, he spread his wings and started flying to his destination. The church. Sona and Rias were left confused as they didn't get much information. Sona appeared in the orc with her queen to talk to Rias about what just happened. As soon as she appeared, Sona started a peeking. Rias, do you know what this is about? She asked frantically, which was not normal for the usually stoic girl. No, I don't know what that was, but we should quickly head out to the church to find out. With that said, both kings with their queens got ready to teleport. Their other peerage members were out at the moment busy with contracts, so it was only gonna be the 4. It didn't take long for Issei to reach the church as he flew at his top speed. As he could easily break the sound barrier without even trying, goes to show how fast he was. As soon as he reached the church, he set up a barrier so not a single soul could enter to exit the area. In his anger, he was releasing quite a bit of his power, and he could tell that the residents of the church knew he was there. Sensing that the 3 fallen and exorcists were inside, he walked up to the door and kicked it hard enough to make them go flying. He enters. As soon as he entered, he dodged a sword slash from a white-haired man that was smiling like some maniac. Oh, what do you have here? A devil? No, you're not a devil. Oh well, it doesn't matter, it'll cut you up anyways. Looking around, he could see the fallen, so he's starting trying to sense them again to notice that they were below them. Hey, don't ignore me, said the white-haired man, taking another swing of his sword before shooting his gun at Issei, which he dodged a slash before catching the bullets in his hand. Whistling, the white-haired man started speaking again. Well, I'll be damned, you're pretty strong. It seems that this will be tougher than I thought. Oh well, I freed Selzen, she'll end your life. Ha 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 ha, he started laughing like a maniac before getting hit in the chest, being sent flying through a wall. Looking at the man, Issei turns to the rest, thinking that the man is unconscious. It takes him only a few seconds to knock out the rest of the people there before heading towards the hidden basement entrance. Making it downstairs, he feels that the 3 fallen as well as Asia were down there. What caused him to start running was when he sensed that Asia's life force was diminishing very quickly. As he burst through the doors, he was just in time to see 2 rings float off of Asia's fingers to a short blonde fallen angel dressed in a gothic Lolita dress. The other 2 fallen throw light spears at him, but he just vanishes from view to appear again next to where Asia is. He looks at her as a tear falls from his eye. She was barely breathing in a dress that was being held up by a single strap. She was hanging from something that looked to be a cross. I was too late. I'm so sorry, Asia. Seeing the tears, fallen angels start laughing before the blue-haired busty fallen angel started mocking him. Ha 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 ha. What's wrong? Did you know this girl? Well, you can take her if you want, we no longer have any use for her. Oh right, she won't last that much longer. I guess you can still fuck her once before she dies. Ha 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 ha. She goes back to laughing with her fellow fallen. Issei ignored the taunting as he gently undid the straps keeping Asia tied to the cross before grabbing her in his arms. I'm sorry, I should have never allowed you to enter this place after I found out those things were here. Cutting him off, Asia reaches up to cup his cheek with her hand before giving him the brightest smile Issei had ever seen. It's okay, it's not your fault. This is all part of God's plan, I'm sure he must have a reason for letting this happen. Coughing, Asia starts losing more and more of her strength before muttering. I only wish I could have had a friend before going. Hearing her, he smiles, if you would have me, I would be overjoyed to be that person. She gives him the most beautiful smile before whispering, thank you. She then goes limp. Hugging her body, he starts crying before overwhelming presence was felt all over the world and all other realms, even through the barrier. This presence was of great concern to all being in the supernatural world. In the underworld, the four Satans were having a meeting about some mundane things when they felt it. The crushing pressure that was filled with untamed rage and sorrow. Surzix and Seraphol, knowing who was the cause of this, were worried about what and who caused this. They didn't know if their little sisters were okay. The other two Satans, Ajuka Beelzebub and Falbium Asmodeus, were just as panicked as this was strongest presence they had ever felt. In heaven, the Seraphs were in a meeting as well when they felt the pressure. With God being dead, Michiel had taken it upon himself to lead heaven. With that, the other three archangels look at him. Their names are Gabriel, the only sister, Uriel, and Raphael. Seeing them look to him for orders, he quickly composes himself. Find out where this is coming from as fast as you can. Once you find the location, we are leaving to see who it is that is releasing it. They nod before dispersing, leaving Michiel by himself. Father, what could this mean? Do you know who could be this strong? With that said, he too left to try and find the origin of the pressure. Then Grigori, Azazel, the leader of the fallen angels, was in his office doing paperwork when it appeared. As soon as it appeared, his assistant burst through the door breathing heavily. Sir, do you know what this is? Who could be this strong? They asked, trying to catch their breath. Azazel looked to be in thought before answering. I honestly don't know, but we need to find out where it is coming from, as I'm sure the other factions are doing the same. Nodding, the man leaves to try pass down the order. Azazel slouches down in his chair sighing. Of course something has to happen right as things seem to be peaceful. At Tannen's place, both Ophis and Rad felt Issei's presence and felt how angry and sad he was. Ophis became worried and was about to head to his location before Red stopped her. Ophis, let him handle this by himself. I'm sure a lot of people will be heading to where he is right now, and if we show up it will only complicate things. Even though he said this, he couldn't help but be worried about his son as well. Seeing the logic in his words, Ophis reluctantly agreed to stay out of it. But if they hurt Issei in any way, there will be no mercy. Ophis said this in a way that there was room for negotiations. Red could only nod. Back at the church, as soon as Rias, Sona, and their queens appeared, they were crushed under a strong pressure, knocking them out. Right before passing out, they both thought the same thing. Issei. What happened? Why are you so sad? This was all they could do before darkness took them. Back with Issei under the church, Issei was seen picking up Asia's body before carrying her over to one of the pews, laying her down. He then took of his jacket and covered her with it before turning back to the fallen angels. Giving them a death glare, he asks them. Why? Why did she have to die? What gives you the right to take her happiness? He had made sure to not overwhelm them so as to keep them conscious. Even with Issei going easy on them, all they could do was stare at him. Seeing the rings that came from Asia in the hands of the blonde fallen, he walks over, causing them to jump back in fear. He points at her hands before they disappear, leaving the rings behind. It took a moment for the fact that she no longer had hands to register. She starts screaming in pain and horror. Motioning for the rings to go to him, they start floating in his direction till they fall in his hand. With the rings in hand, he walks back to the now dead nun before placing the rings back on her hands, hoping to bring her back, but it's no use. She was dead and there was no changing that. With tears in his eyes, he leaves Asia before walking over to the fallen angels, ready to end their lives. You deserve to die for what you have done. First, you think that you can just kill me, and second, you kill the most innocent girl I've ever met. Saying this, he starts charging fire magic in his hand, getting ready to let it loose. Seeing this, the fallen start begging for their lives just like Rainer did. They'll tell you the same thing I told your friend Rainer. If you are ready to take someone else's life, you should be ready to lose your own. Saying this, he unleashed an inferno of fire that destroys everything in its path. He quickly puts up a shield around Asia to protect her body. But the fallen now dead, his anger starts to lower, leaving only sorrow. He reigns in his power before walking over to Asia. He picks her up bridal style again and starts walking up the stairs and outside. Once outside he could see 3 groups of people. Seeing Rias and Sona he thinks of something. Devils can reincarnate humans as devils, essentially bringing them back to life. He quickly walks over to the devil group, causing the other 2 groups to pale at thinking that someone this strong was on their side. Reaching them he asks in a frantic voice. "Can one of you please save her? Make her a part of your peerage and I can promise you anything." She has a sacred gear that allows her to heal others, so she would be useful as well. He said this while laying Issei down and bowing his head to his friends. Everyone could tell he was a dragon by his aura, and for one of such power to bow down was not normal. Dragons were prideful being that rarely if ever lowered their heads to anyone. For one to do so would mean that it was of utmost importance to them. Seeing their long-time friend bowing to them, they quickly tried to get him to raise his head. "I say, you don't have to do this. If what you say is true then I would gladly take her in." Rias said while bother her, and Sona tried but failed to pull him off the ground. After realizing that he would stay that way till she reincarnated the girl, Rias pulled out her evil pieces, grabbing a bishop. I need to know her name to do this," Rias said in a low voice. "Her name is Asia Argento," Issei said while still bowing. After placing the piece on her chest and chanting the spell, the piece entered her body. Asia had just become a devil, but all Issei cared about was that she was alive. Looking at Rias he spoke. "Thank you, Rias. Thank you so much." Before she could reply, the leader of the fallen spoke up. "Well, that's not something you see every day." A dragon bowing his head to someone so much weaker than Issei, he didn't get to finish his sentence as he felt an immense killing intent directed at him. He looked over to see Issei walking over to him with his wings open wide. "Tell me, Fallen. Are you the leader of your faction?" Issei asked while walking closer to him. Azazel nodded, not knowing that this action almost cost him his life. The next thing he knew, he was sent flying by a punch to the face. Coming to a stop, he looked to see Issei glaring at him. "Then tell me, leader of the fallen, do you know what your underlings were doing in this town?" Issei asked as he started walking towards Azazel again. Not having much time to think, he quickly speaks. "They were supposed to be observing the humans that had sacred gears, but from what has happened here, I'm assuming that they did something else." He had a rare seriousness in his voice that is usually not there. Hearing this, Issei stops walking before speaking again. "Is that so? Then tell me why they said someone called Kokobiel ordered them to kill the sacred gear holders of this town, as well as an innocent nun that just arrived in Japan." Issei was clenching his fists, trying to hold back his anger, not wanting to kill him if he is indeed innocent. Azazel stayed silent for a minute, deep in thought. It would seem that there is a traitor, and that traitor would be Kokobiel. Was one of the leading figures of Grigori. Saying this, he watched as Issei put his wings away before turning around and walking back to the nun. "Then I shall find Kokobiel and have him answer for this." After saying this, Issei picks up Asia and teleports away. After Issei left, the 3 groups stayed silent. Michiel broke the silence, saying, "As it would seem that this incident has been solved, we shall be leaving. Goodbye." A golden magic circle appeared beneath him and his group as they disappear. Surzix looks at the leader of the fallen before speaking. "It would seem that your people have angered someone they shouldn't have." He said this feeling the slighting but a pity for him. Sighing, Azazel could only shake his head in frustration. "It would seem so. It seems that Dumbus Kokobiel has finally pocked the sleeping dragon." He could only sigh as he too said his goodbyes to leave, as he had a traitor to take care of. But the only people left being the 2 Satans and their 2 little sisters. The Satans turned to talk to them. "Do you have any idea how this happened?" They shook their heads before speaking. "We only found out about this right before it happened, as Issei contacted us. The only thing he told us was that he was going to take care to some fallen angels and stray exorcists in this church and ended the call," Sona said. The Satans thought about this for a moment before speaking again. "Try and find out more about how and why this happened and then report to us with whatever you find." Getting nods from both girls, they sigh before getting to taking care of the unconscious exorcists. End of the here. So that's it for today's video, guys. Before you go, just like the video and share it with your friends. Bye.